Hey guys, it's Sean Klinger and Chris Siebenar with Vital MX. Today is a knee brace comparison. So we've had these 6 knee braces for a while now. There is a new knee brace from Alpine Stars that's not included in this, but that came out before we started this kind of comparison, so that'll get to its own thing a little bit later on. But today we're looking at the CTi Asterisk, the Pod, the EVS, the Mobius, and Leatt. And just, you know, some people are knee brace people and some people aren't. I've kind of been on both sides of the fence. I've hurt my knees in both, so I'm not 100% a knee brace guy. I do prefer a knee brace over a knee pad, but it really depends on the situation. Chris, how about you?
I'm a knee brace guy. Ever since the first time I wore one, I was probably 14. I've always worn a knee brace. I've had to wear pads for other reason, testing and whatnot. Never felt comfortable with those, and I mean, I've gone to the track before, forgot a knee brace, and turned around and gone home.
Yeah, so he's on that side of the fence. And I mean, there are some pros and cons. I mean, some people say that a knee brace can possibly break your femur if it itself doesn't give way. There is evidence for that. There's even David Pingree, our own tester, he's not a knee brace guy. He's kind of anti-knee brace. Same with Ryan Hughes. They have their own reasons.
There's even a lot of guys that I used to work with on the national circuit, Supercross guys that were strict knee pad guys, would not wear a knee brace.
Yeah.
So,
but if you are watching this, I'm assuming you're either in the market for a new knee brace, you're knee brace curious, or you just want to hear us talk and yammer on about different knee braces. So basically, we'll go through the features of each, talk about our experience riding with them, and then, when I started this comparison, I was hoping to get a strict, 1 through 6 ranking of best to worst, but I think there's too many factors involved to really have a first place and a 6th place. I know it's a little bit of a cop-out, but there are some that I prefer for different reasons, and there's some that Siebes prefers for different reasons. So we'll definitely let you know which are our favorites and why, and which are maybe our least favorites, and the reasons behind that. So first off, we're going to talk about these in the order of price. So going from the most expensive to the least expensive. And the most expensive is the CTi. So some people might not know, obviously CTi makes fully custom braces that are very expensive. You have to go to them and they measure, and it's a whole process. But they do offer on Amazon, actually, this is the OTS brace, which I think it stands for off the shelf. So these are $849.99 on Amazon for the pair. And that comes with knee sleeves and the knee cup, because this brace also has a removable knee cup. You could buy it without. So some of the features, this is a carbon fiber brace. It has 4 straps like most of the knee braces. Something that's a little unique about this guy is that the top and lower kind of leg closure systems are very flexible. And then the actual brace itself, the frame, the rigid part, is only kind of a cage around the knee. So it's a little bit different than some of the others that have kind of a rigid structure. Building this guy up, like putting in the different stops, isn't that hard. There's only the wedges. There's a few wedges that go in the hinge that you can change to get different extension stops. So Siebes, riding with this guy, how'd you like it?
This is actually one of my favorite in terms of bike feel, meaning how it feels, as you're squeezing the bike, mostly because of where it distributed the pressure against your leg. Some of the braces felt like all the pressure went specifically, you almost got a pressure point on your knee joint. This one actually, it felt like the entire frame from here to there is where it pressed against your leg. So it's a very secure feeling against the bike. I really liked, these straps right here. It molded to your leg. The back of it is super grippy, so it didn't move. Security of it felt like it kept your knee and everything in place and did its job. This area up here does leave, an area of exposure to catch a handlebar, catch a lever, and you're really getting down into a rut.
I would have to say that I agree with most of that. this was actually one of my favorite braces to wear. Sizing wise, I feel like it's on the generous side, as far as, when I was wearing all these earlier this year, it was XL pretty much across the board. This one was actually a large that I wore, so it was a size smaller than all the other ones. So the sizing is, I think, a little bit more generous than some of the other ones. But I also agree that the point in the bottom here, you definitely feel that on your shin if you have the lock, depending on your lockout. And you don't feel it when you're riding, but it is, at the end of the day, you definitely have like a sore spot on your shin. So, I mean, that's something that you can mess with the lockout. This is probably my favorite knee cup protection, the patella protection, because it's almost like an old school like skateboard pad, like it fully engages with the knee and really sticks to it. And like you said, the backing here, it's a unique, compared to all the other braces, it's a very grippy material that's still very comfortable. Like, they make braces just like the pod for other sports, so you can remove the cup, and this is for wakeboarding or whatever. That's going straight on skin. So this company was definitely thinking about making sure it doesn't slip, making sure it doesn't slide out of place. I think it does that really well.
And then last but not least with this, one of the things we did with all the knee braces was we measured the thickness of the hinge, which would be from the very outside. In this case, CTi does include this cover, for wear. We removed the padding, so it's just from the base to the very outside of the hinge is where I measured each knee brace on the inside. The CTi is the widest at about 16.5 millimeters.
And it's also 3.95 pounds. So not the lightest, not necessarily the heaviest, but it's kind of on the heavier end of the braces.
Okay, so next up we have is the Asterisk carbon cell. This is the top of the line brace from Asterisk. Full carbon fiber frame, a pretty standard neoprene pad underneath, 4 individual straps. Each strap is connected by a swivel pivoting ring. Patella cup, lower and upper protection on top of that. What's your thoughts?
The whole placement of how far up and how far down the knee brace goes, the curvature of the knee brace, and even though it's rigid up at the top, all of that just really fit my leg really well. I think it really matched my leg shape, and then also the fit is, I would say it's pretty accurate to being an XL or being a large, and I was really impressed with the comfort right away, because I mean, looking at it, it feels super solid and rigid, and I was a little nervous that if it doesn't match my leg 100%, that I would notice it or it would be awkward. But riding with it, I think Asterisk really knows exactly where to put the straps. That was something I noticed, that you almost like that the third strap down is the most important to get right above your calf muscle. And I felt like I didn't have to strap it down so hard, because some of the other ones, if it's a little bit out of place or a little bit, you have to make sure that one is the most secure. And I feel like the placement and even the little pad behind it really helped hold the knee brace in place without having to really wrench it down.
One of the things I loved about the brace right away, super thin profile. Because it doesn't have extra hinges, connection points, where they're trying to fit stuff together. It's just a carbon frame. The profile of the frame, the thickness, both at the top and bottom, is very thin. Again, it is carbon fiber, so it is rigid. So to take some of that back, you want to thin it out a little bit. So it fits in the boot nice. It fits in the pant nice. It doesn't, tighten, especially now the pants nowadays when you start getting into the higher level pants. They have more of an athletic fit, a little more of a slim fit to them. So this one fit really nice underneath. The other thing is the frame. It looks trick. It looks factory. It looks like it'd be on a MotoGP or an F1 car. So the padding, again, it's not a deal breaker. It's just for an $800 brace. Some edges are they're squared off. It doesn't really flow with the brace as well. You can see on a couple areas where it looks like they just took scissors because maybe the padding was sticking out too far in one area or the next. Like Sean said, we lost the Velcro on the inside, so we lost the padding on the inside. Next thing is, the patella cup. Most of the other braces have some sort of a self-centering. It's elastic. It holds in place. This guy just kind of floats there. It's not an issue. You don't notice it while riding, but certainly it's not a high-end fit and finish.
Right.
The other thing, because it floats there and it's relying on so many points, rather quickly I started to wear this side Velcro piece.
Yeah.
The next thing is on the inside of the patella cup, there's a foam pad. And the very first time I rode after the Mint 400, I was undressing, taking my gear off, and the inside of my leg and my pants was just covered in a dust, a black powdery dust. And as I started digging apart the knee brace, what it was is the protection above the patella cup and below the patella cup were rubbing on the inside of this pad and just slowly shaving and chipping away, at that pad. So again, it's nothing really bad. The patella cup you can replace. You can get replacements for the stuff. But for a brace that's $799,
Kind of shouldn't need to replace it.
Exactly.
Or
It's
right away.
just a bit short there. But the feeling on the bike, again, it was very similar to the CTi for me. A very broad distribution of pressure, and it was really, really comfortable.
And this one comes in at 3 pounds, 0.42, a little bit closer to the lighter side of the braces, kind of right in the middle.
Yep, and it's the width of the hinge was 13 millimeters, so it's kind of right in the middle. It's the average, I guess, of majority of the braces.
The next brace that we're going to talk about is the Pod K8, and this guy comes in at the same price, $799.95 for the pair. It's a carbon fiber, main frame. It weighs in at 3.1 pounds, so it's the lightest out of all the braces that we have here, and the hinge thickness is 15.2 millimeters.
For me, once you put the knee brace on, very comfortable. I really liked it. You have these memory straps right here, which allowed you basically just to set the very top, set the very bottom, and those ones just kind of hook right in. Kind of makes putting on the brace a little bit easier.
A little faster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really liked how both the thigh, the strap on the brace, as well as the one on the calf, they have a little bit they have a lot of give to them, so it will conform to the shape of your leg. The other advantage to having something that's a little bit softer is, as you're riding, as you go to push off of the pegs, you're setting up for a jump, your muscles flex, they change shape, they'll change thicknesses, and having something with a little bit of give allows that brace to work with those muscles a little more than, say a rigid frame. The feel on the bike for me, I really felt the pressure point of this hinge.
I would agree.
Again, where some of the other ones really distributed that pressure, this I could tell exactly where I was gripping. The padding on the inside, it's nice. It's probably on the firmer side. The only thing about this one was, while it fit great standing straight, once the brace bent, I would get pinch points right here, just above the frame, which is, on both my legs. So sizing knee braces is a very difficult thing because you're working with a joint, you're working with muscles that are contracting, expanding, and flexing. So understandably, having a pinch point, some of the braces do have it. It's been common over the years.
For me, I would agree with most of that. I do notice a little bit more of a pressure point where the hinge is when you're squeezing with your knees, but it wasn't really a deal breaker for me. It didn't really bother me. It was just something that was a little bit different. Overall, I feel like this was one of the braces you put on, and it, at least for me, kind of melted away. Like I didn't think about it when I was riding. It didn't hinder anything. It didn't feel like it's very light, kind of pretty low profile. I think the biggest con for me is just the kind of patella protection system. It's kind of these two sliding hinges two sliding cups that it's simple, but it's kind of awkward. Like when you put on your pants, you got to move it around and stuff, and then also when you kneel down to work on your bike, it kind of feels awkward. It's one that I've continued to wear. It fits me really well. These only come with basically the one lockout. There aren't that many options, so if you need a very aggressive lockout, you're kind of SOL there. There's only the one that it comes with, which is in there, and it is pretty mild. It's not a very, like, you know, it doesn't lock out too soon.
So next up, we have the EVS Axis Pro. So this is a multi-material frame. You have an aluminum kind of cage around your knee, and then you have carbon fiber closures both at the calf and the thigh.
It's 4.36 pounds, the heaviest out of all of them.
The hinge on it is on the thicker side of average. It was 14.9 millimeters, not as thick as a CTi, not as narrow as some of the other ones. It uses five straps. I don't really understand the fifth one. All the other straps, they are connected by a pivoting D-ring style strap, again, which allows it to move around on your leg. What were your thoughts on it?
I think we forgot to mention it is $749 for the pair, so it's the next one down. It's a comfortable brace to wear, but it is a little bulky. Like, that extra fifth strap just kind of confuses me. And basically what we're talking about is kind of by the third strap, there's an extra neoprene strap that you need to strap before the Velcro strap. And it's thick, so this doubles up when you cross it over. You know, the idea there is that you can get the outer strap really, really tight without it pinching or causing any discomfort or really rubbing. But I did feel an even distribution of pressure when I was gripping with the bike, which was good, but it was like a bulkier feel. Like, I was almost a little bit farther away from the bike when riding it. Comfort-wise, you know, it fit my leg well. The bottom kind of curvature here is a little weird. It doesn't seem like it's quite right. There's a little bit of a gap when you tighten this down, and since this bottom part is rigid, you can't change that. It's just kind of stuck there, and but when you're riding, I didn't really notice an issue with it. It was just kind of awkward.
For me, it had a similar feel to the pod, where I really felt the hinges on this. You always felt the width of it. You felt the bulk of it. I just could not understand this brace. I mean, even when you look at it, it's halfway up the third strap. So it's too high to be an additional strap. It's too low to be a backing on the third strap. So if this was my brace, I would probably just cut that off. The material of the neoprene, it has a little bit of a grippy feel to it, so it did stay in place. It did that very well. The strap actually has a little bit of elastic right here. So it allows that to, because the frame itself is so rigid up here and down the bottom, it allows the strap to have some give, you know, as you're riding, as your, you know, muscles flex, standing up and whatnot. Really like the way, you know, the patella cup centers itself. It does have an elastic that goes around the top. Your knee stays very protected. They have this middle pad right here, which goes on your knee, and that stays in place.
Yeah, that's kind of always touching your knee.
Right. You know, and so everything else floats around that. So that's kind of nice. You never feel the pad, the patella cup moving, because you always have a fixed pad against your knee. Everything else moves around that.
It does feel very protective, you know, and it does feel very rigid when you're riding, which is good, but overall not the most slim and svelte, I guess. So next, moving on, is the Mobius X8. It is $599.95 for the pair. There are 3 kind of typical Velcro straps that are backed by padding, and then there is one X strap, and this is a cable system that is actually ratcheted by the front here. You release here, and you can twist that, and the whole kind of center section here sucks in, and it's a micro adjustable. It is not the lightest. It is 3.65 pounds, and the hinge is actually pretty thin. It's 13.1 millimeters. And also building it, I would say out of all the braces, this has the most options as far as leg fit. When you buy this brace, it comes with every single one of the big neoprene pads in the back and on the knee cup, and this width, all of those can be replaced. They come with the brace, so you can really customize the fit for you. I thought that was pretty cool. But riding, what'd you think?
Riding, this was one of my favorite. Putting on and changing the lockout is up here, where all the other braces, you change the stop and the hinge.
Yeah.
This is the only one where it's dead center, right in the middle of the knee. There's a screw on the back of it. Undo that screw, pop it off, put it back on. Very simple. Security-wise, it felt very secure. Again, you don't have the rigid feel that the other ones had. But going back to earlier where, you talked about the pros and cons, sometimes a knee brace, when you have a very rigid frame, a frame that is carbon fiber and extremely, extremely stiff, there's instances you can get into, tangled with the bike, the first thing that's going to break, it's not going to be carbon fiber.
Right.
So this being a glass field nylon, you have a bit of flex in with the frame. So it allows, in that type of an incident where you get tangled with the bike, it gives you a split second of time to maybe get released from the bike as the brace is flexing and allow the incident to happen, allow you to separate. When you see all the other braces, there's lots of holes to allow the heat from your legs to escape. This has none. Yeah. I didn't notice it any other time while riding. The last couple of weeks have been extremely hot, so there's been a couple 100-degree days. I went out the other weekend, it was 95, and that's when I started noticing the heat buildup that this brace kind of retains. The other thing, this strap back here is extremely bulky. Yeah. So that made some pants a little bit tight for me, especially, again, the newer pants, high-end models, athletic fit. That's where that one, I'd really have to kind of pull the pant around and shimmy the pant up the knee brace. What about you?
For me, ultimately, it is the bulkiest brace. I just, exactly what you just said, there were some pants that I could not wear. Some of the off-road pants that are less stretchy, but still slim fit, Fox Legion pants, I think they were, could not get them on. So that was an issue. But that's maybe more of a pant issue than a brace issue, but something to think about. Overall, I like the feel of it. I did think the whole ratcheting kind of cable system a little gimmicky. The only reason why I say that is because the most important strap is the one right above your calf. This is what's really holding on your brace. It is cool that the cables do flow down to the front of the brace. I mean, it kind of holds everything together, and even getting it on takes a few extra steps to kind of fit your leg through it. When you're actually riding, it does have kind of a like all one unit kind of feel. You don't really feel the hinge, you just kind of feel the whole side of the brace. So actually riding with it was pretty comfortable, but it did have almost like a beefy big knee pad feel rather than the kind of the real rigid structure feeling of some of the other ones. So not my least favorite, not my most favorite, just kind of right in the middle for me for different reasons.
Next one, last but not least, is the Leatt X-Frame brace. This one is $469 for the pair. Yep. So by far the least expensive out of all of them, almost half price of what the CTi is. But it does have a carbon composite frame, which goes around majority of the leg, both top and bottom. While the top of the frame is rigid, and same with the bottom, they do have little plastic additions to allow some flex for the frame. The weight of the brace was 3.45 pounds, and it has the thinnest inside hinge width at only 11 millimeters.
The fit is it actually is on the slimmer side, like the overall width of the brace, and it reminded me of the pod actually that originally had kind of pressure points on the top of the thigh, but there is more give to it, so I felt like it was pretty comfortable when riding it. Squeezing the bike, it had a kind of a low profile. It's a thin hinge. Didn't feel like there was much bulk there. One of the more awkward parts for me was the floating patella cup. It sticks way off the front of the brace, and it feels like it never really makes contact with your knee. As you can see, when it bends, it's just floating out in kind of middle of nowhere. There is a lot of protection with these two different sections that slide when your knee is bent, but the kneel test to work on your bike, not very comfortable, and it's almost like when you bend your knee, every time you bend your knee, you feel your pants kind of push out a little bit. A little awkward there. And then with my brace that I was wearing, I did have a strap pull out the rivet. it is the cheaper of all these braces, but for something that's still close to $500, I kind of expect a little more durability than that. I mean, none of these braces were 100% perfect, but that was kind of a bummer for me.
So typically when I was doing the test, I would wear one brace on one leg and I'd wear another brace on another leg. I also wore both braces on both legs to really round out the feel, because sometimes when you wear, say, both CTIs, it feels neutral. You know, as you're riding, both legs are about the same width and they feel the same grip in the bike. But when you wear a CTi and you wear a Leatt, a 16 millimeter hinge thickness to an 11 millimeter hinge thickness, it's a big difference, and you really feel that difference when you're squeezing the bike. The strap system, 4 individual straps. It does have 2 of them are on a pivot on a D-ring. Rigidity of the frame, it felt protective. It runs small.
Yeah.
So most of the braces, I was a large. I'd wear an extra large in this brace. Yeah. And it fit. An extra large fit like all the other larges. One of the pros to it, a lot of ventilation. You know, as you can see, once you start bending your leg, there's a lot of areas for the hot air and heat to escape. To change the stop, you undo 2 screws, you pull off the cover. There's a kind of a plastic bar in there. You replace that, and that'll change, you know, the hyperextension, the limit on the knee brace. Con for the brace for me was after maybe is 6-7 hours, the hinge on the right leg developed a click. Yep. And I went back to the truck, took it off, pulled the hinge cover off, made sure everything was in place, put it back together, click was still there. So I never really found out what that click was, but as you're riding and it's right when you're flexing, right as you're pushing off of the pegs, it had just enough of a hang up where it felt like the brace would lock out. It never did. Important to say that, never locked out, but it gave a distracting feeling, and it just had that feeling like, what if something's catching and it stops. Right. So only really downside to me was, again, the hinge developed a click after kind of a short amount of time. If you were to go with 2 braces, what would they be?
My 2 would be the CTi and the pod. And the reasons being, I think comfort-wise, the CTi is probably the most comfortable. It's a little bit more bulky than the pod, but I really like the patella cup, the comfort there. It is not going to slide. I feel like I could wear it with, you know, any base layer, any kind of, or no base layer at all. Everything is very secure. I could feel like I could get the straps really tight without it being uncomfortable. Where like the EVS, I felt like if I got the strap too tight, like behind the calf, that it would pinch or feel weird and I'd notice it. Where no matter what, stayed comfortable. I also like the pod overall for its slim profile, kind of the fact that it kind of melted away. I didn't, even though there is a little bit of a pressure point in the hinge area, didn't bother me. Very light, and just overall just fit my leg really well.
So if I had to pick 2, my 2 would be Asterisk and the Mobius. So even despite, you know, some of the quality issues of it, the fit and finish, you know, of some of the details, they're not deal breakers. You know, the foam looked like it was cut with scissors in some areas. I don't care. The foam on the backside of the patella cup started shaving away. It did that only the first couple times. After that, it seemed like whatever had to wear off wore off, and it was there. Only main downside was the Velcro on the inside of the knee hinges. I would probably just get some better Velcro somewhere and maybe just have some extra spares. A couple minute details, but I love the way it fit on my leg. I love the way it fit in the pant. Despite having a very rigid frame on top, it fit my leg perfect. Generous, broad feel of a pressure point. That was, I would say, maybe my number 1. The next was the Mobius. Again, a very comfortable brace. And I don't mind, you know, a softer, less rigid brace. I spent a lot of years riding with the Alpine Stars Fluid brace, which is a more flexible brace as well. So it's very similar to that feel. So, you know, as a rider, if you're looking to get braces, what are some of the things to look about? You know, how slim the brace is, maybe what are the materials. If you're a guy that runs a knee pad, maybe something like the Mobius that has a bit more give to your leg might be a little bit less intrusive as to some of the stiffer braces. If you're a guy that has trouble squeezing the bike, maybe your knees don't really quite get to the bike, perhaps the CTi might be better because it has a thicker hinge. Yep. It might help your knee contact the bike sooner than, say, the ultra-thin Leatt.
So overall, all of these have pros and cons. All of these, none of them were like unwearable or there were serious issues. I'd be happy to run all of them, but you know, as we said, we had our preferences, and it shows that different riders are going to have different preferences for knee braces for different reasons. So, you know, if you're looking to get a knee brace, you know, definitely take advantage of a lot of the online retailers that have return policies for sizing, because you know, that's kind of really important to get the right size to really fit your leg. So that's something to consider. And also, there's some that are more adjustable than others. So if you don't want to worry about returning it, or if you're going to lose weight or gain weight or whatever, Mobius is really adjustable for that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed overall with the way that knee braces are going and how much protection you can have. And don't be scared if you are not a knee brace guy to try one, because it's gonna feel awkward the first time you ride. It will. It will feel very weird, but as someone that goes back and forth between them, you get used to it. And it's actually become something that you kind of rely on, and you kind of prefer if you go that way to really like the structure and rigidity of a knee brace.
Yeah, definitely give a knee brace a few times to get used to it. It probably took me 3 or 4 rides to really get used to the brace and the feel that where it would just disappear on me and I wouldn't really notice it after a while. You know, but it's very similar to riding a new bike. You know, if you're a Yamaha guy going to a KTM the first time, it's going to feel funky the first couple times you hop on it. Eventually that just becomes the normal. Yeah. And a knee brace will do that. And again, a lot of pros and cons. A lot of more pros, I would say, than cons of wearing a knee brace.
So, thanks for sticking with us thus far. It's a long video, and thanks for getting all the way to the end. But if you are on YouTube, please check out vitalmx.com for more videos and product tests and bike tests. If you are on vitalmx.com, go to YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.